activists learned from the United States of America is a belief in freedom and democracy. And that means we may have different ideas. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. And so to seek to punish South Africa because there's a disagreement on particular policy areas is a most unfortunate response.
If you had to rate the quality of the United States-South Africa relationship on a scale of 0 to 10 right now, where would you rate it? And the second part of that is, what do you think the potential is in the next 5 years?
I'd rate it above 6 with the executive and below 6 with the legislators. And I think the executive has a closer understanding of South Africa. And I'm not sure that the legislators have a similar understanding.
What do you think members of Congress miss right now about the relationship?
Well, I think they make conclusions about South Africa's international relations without necessarily speaking to us. And this is very troubling because if I were to make a definitive statement about a country and its policy, I would at least speak to its policymakers first and attempt to understand what the cause, if any, of an emerging dissonance might be. And once I have that understanding, I then would either say my perception is confirmed or is actually challenged by the reality I've come to understand. So I would approach things rather differently. Also, I think it's important, I don't want to confirm your notion that politicians talk for too long. So I'm a bit, I'm sort of on the back foot on this one. But I do think that one of the things that I certainly, as a young activist, learned from the United States of America is a belief in freedom and democracy. And that means we may have different ideas. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. And so to seek to punish South Africa because there's a disagreement on particular policy areas is a most unfortunate response.
I want to push a little further there because I think there's some interesting context underlying that. Do you personally see the bilateral relationship between the United States and South Africa as remaining one that is founded on shared values?
I think it has to be. I believe South Africa is a very important partner. There are a range of shared values and principles. And I think it is perhaps in the interpretation as to how these are exercised where we might differ. South Africa is, I think, the most robust democracy on the African continent. And this is proven by 6 successful elections, and I have no doubt the 7th will be free and fair as well. Also by very robust institutions of democracy that are independent from the executive and operate very independently. So those would be aspects of shared value. We have very wide rights of expression in our country, affirmed by our Bill of Rights in our Constitution. We have huge respect for freedom of religion and culture and language, again derived from our particular history, our context, but mirroring in a very important fashion what exists in the United States of America. So on the basis of those values and principles, I believe there is a lot shared.
I know that as part of this trip, you're going to be outside of Washington, elsewhere in America, and that you intend to meet with civil society. Mm-hmm. And when I was a diplomat for the US, I met with civil society at every stop, but it is not as common when we have visitors to the United States for them to make the time to meet with civil society. What do you hope to learn from that engagement?
Well, I wish to understand the thinking of civil society organizations and also get a measure of the degree to which they continue to be aligned with the values that drove many organizations to support South Africa's struggle against apartheid, to have an appreciation as to whether those values still hold or whether they're so fundamentally altered that we're dealing with a totally different America.
I suspect that one of the things that you will discuss both with the members of Congress that you meet with, the executive branch, as well as the civil society actors, is the upcoming election in the United States this year, and you will be gathering different perspectives on that. But obviously South Africa also has upcoming elections. And I wonder if you could say a bit about how you're thinking about how you calibrate your engagement with respect to US elections, and also whether you think that the elections in South Africa might have noticeable political change. Obviously, unemployment is very high, particularly among young people. There's a wealth gap, as in this country, that is persistent and problematic. And is the ANC headed for a result that might be shocking? Not that it will lose power, but that it might, for instance, poll under 50% for the first time?
Well, I think I'll probably avoid discussing the American election while I'm here, and I'll continue to watch CNN, Fox, etc., to get a measure of what's really happening here.
Some people might tell you
but
you
I
should
do
watch something
hope,
else.
I hope that the outcome will lead to the establishment of an executive that would have a continued interest in the African continent and its development aspirations, and that would see the United States of America as an important partner for the African continent. So that's what I would hope for. And, we'll see where the Americans place their crosses. With respect to South Africa, I'm an activist, and as a campaigner, I campaign for a majority for the African National Congress.